I 25F wasn't invited to the family cruise, but they expected me to babysit while they're having fun. Hey, Reddit, I usually just scroll through posts wondering how families can treat each other so badly. Well, turns out my own family just gave me a story worth posting. This has been sitting in my chest like a weight for the past week, and I need some perspective. Let me introduce myself. I'm 25, single, working as a software developer at a major tech company in Seattle, and apparently, I'm now the designated family doormat. I graduated from college 3 years ago and landed what most people would consider a dream job. My team respects me, my work is challenging and rewarding, and I've been steadily building my career. But in my family? I'm just the reliable one. The go-to person whenever anyone needs help, especially with childcare. Don't get me wrong, I love my nieces and nephews. I've always been there for emergencies, last-minute babysitting, or when someone needs an extra hand. Maybe that's where I went wrong, being too available, too willing to help. Here's the backstory. My Aunt Jean, 65F, is retiring after 40 years as a teacher. She's basically our family's matriarch, the one who makes sure everyone stays connected. She organizes every holiday dinner, keeps track of all the birthdays, and even sends care packages to the younger cousins when they start college. She's the glue that holds us all together. When I was in college, she was the one who sent me care packages during finals week, complete with my favorite snacks and handwritten notes of encouragement. She even helped me prepare for my first job interviews. Naturally, her retirement is a big deal, and I was excited to celebrate with her. Or at least I was until I found out I'm not actually part of the celebration. It all started last week. I had just finished a particularly challenging project at work, staying late to meet deadlines and managing a critical system update. I was exhausted but still kept my weekly dinner plans with my family. These dinners have been a tradition since I moved into my own apartment, and I've rarely missed one, even when I'm swamped with work. I arrived at my parents' house, bringing the usual bottle of wine that Mom likes. It was a typical evening, my mom, 55F, fussing over what to make, my dad half watching some sports game on TV, and my sister Rachel, 32F, scrolling on her phone. Her 2-year-old was playing with blocks on the floor, occasionally demanding attention from anyone who walked by. We were chatting about random stuff, my recent work project, Rachel's toddler's latest milestone, and the usual family gossip. Then I casually asked if anyone had ideas for Aunt Jean's retirement gift. I'd been thinking about getting her something special, maybe coordinating with the family for a group gift. That's when Rachel, without even looking up from her phone, said, "Oh, we're giving her a group gift on the cruise." I paused mid-bite. What cruise? I thought I'd misheard her at first. Surely if there was a family trip planned, I'd know about it, right? I mean, I'm at every family gathering, every holiday celebration, every birthday party. I laughed nervously and asked what she was talking about. She looked up, clearly confused that I was confused. You know, the cruise we've been planning for months? All the grown-ups in the family are going. She said it like I was somehow at fault for not knowing about something no one had bothered to tell me. I turned to my mom for clarification, and she gave me this awkward smile, the kind she uses when she knows she's done something wrong but doesn't want to admit it. It's a cruise to celebrate your aunt's retirement, she explained, followed by, with a few days in Hawaii. At that moment, I felt like I was in some kind of weird prank show. Everyone else knew about this elaborate trip, and I was completely in the dark. The room suddenly felt too small, too warm. I could feel my heart racing as I tried to make sense of what was happening. I asked why I wasn't told, and my mom gave me a nervous little chuckle before saying, "Well, we thought you'd be more help staying back." Staying back? Help with what? Just then, my cousin Madison, 30F, walked in with her twins, perfect timing to chime in like it was the most obvious thing in the world, the kids. You're so good with them, and it just made sense for you to stay and babysit. Let me paint the picture here. Between Rachel and Madison, there are 4 kids under the age of 4, Rachel's 3-year-old and 2-year-old, and Madison's twins who are just over a year old. And somehow, without even asking me, they had decided that I'd be perfectly fine staying behind to watch all of them. I stared at them in disbelief, my dinner forgotten. Wait, so you're telling me you planned this whole trip, didn't invite me, and just assumed I'd be okay, staying behind to babysit? Rachel shrugged, finally putting her phone down. Well,
Yeah.
you're always so reliable, and you don't have kids or anything to tie you down. It just made sense. Made sense to who? I looked at my mom, hoping for some kind of explanation that didn't make me feel like a complete afterthought. She gave me a weak smile and said, "We didn't mean to leave you out, honey. We just figured you'd understand. You've always been the responsible one." Responsible. That word felt like a slap in the face. I've heard it so many times throughout my life, when I stayed home to help with family events instead of going out with friends, when I changed my college schedule to help with Rachel's firstborn, when I used my vacation days to help Madison after her difficult pregnancy with the twins. I've always been the one who steps up when someone needs help, sure. I've watched the kids in emergencies, helped with school pickups, and even covered for Rachel when she had work conflicts. Just last month, I took a half-day off work to pick up Rachel's kids from daycare when she had a meeting run late. The month before that, I spent 3 weekends helping Madison organize her house after the twins started crawling. But this was on a whole different level. They didn't even have the decency to ask me. They just decided for me, like my time, my wishes, my life didn't matter. My mom tried to smooth things over by saying they'd bring me back a souvenir, like that would somehow make up for being excluded. "We'll get you something nice from Hawaii," she said, as if a tacky trinket could compensate for being treated like the family's unpaid babysitter. Rachel, meanwhile, acted like I was overreacting. "It's not like you'd enjoy the cruise anyway. You're not a big fan of large crowds, right? Remember how uncomfortable you were at Cousin Katie's wedding?" Excuse me? Now they were deciding what I would and wouldn't enjoy. That wedding was 5 years ago, and I was recovering from the flu. But apparently, that one instance had become their excuse to exclude me from family events. I sat there trying to process everything. This wasn't just an oversight, this was deliberate. They had been planning this for months in a private Facebook group. One I wasn't part of because I don't use Facebook, and they all know that. They could have texted, called, or even mentioned it in passing during the dozens of family gatherings we've had. But they didn't. When I pointed out how hurtful it was to be excluded, my mom tried to deflect. "We didn't mean to upset you. It was just practical." Practical. For them. I left shortly after, too angry to keep the conversation going. The drive home was a blur. I could barely focus on the road as memories kept flooding back, all the times I dropped everything to help them, all the sacrifices I'd made, all the times I'd put their needs before mine. But as the days passed, the anger turned into something deeper. It wasn't just about the trip, it was about what this said about how my family sees me. I'm not a person with my own needs, plans, or desires. I'm just the reliable one, the helper, the one they can count on to sacrifice when it's convenient for them. I've replayed the conversation in my head over and over. I thought about how I stayed up all night with Rachel when her first child had colic, how I helped Madison research twin-friendly car seats and strollers, how I've never missed a single birthday party or school event for any of the kids. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just a one-time thing. This is how they've always treated me. I've been so eager to help and be there for my family that I didn't even notice how often they took advantage of it. But this time, I'm done. I don't know how I'm going to handle this moving forward, but one thing's for sure, I'm not staying behind to babysit. Not this time. What do you think, Reddit? Have you ever been in a similar situation? I'll keep you updated on how things unfold. Update 1. Hey, everyone, thanks for all your supportive comments on my previous post. A lot has happened in the past few days, and I need to share how things have escalated. After reading your comments, I decided to try one last time to be included in the cruise. I texted my sister Rachel asking about joining the cruise, thinking maybe we could work something out. Her response was infuriating. "Sorry, the cruise is sold out. We booked months ago, and it's impossible to add people now." I told her I'd be willing to book my own cabin separately, even if it meant being on a different deck or flying to Hawaii independently to meet them there. I was really trying to be accommodating, despite still being hurt about being excluded. Her response: "Well, if you do come, you'd need to figure out childcare first. We've already planned everything assuming you'd watch the kids. That's when I realized they never had any intention of including me. The childcare excuse was just that, an excuse. They had already decided my role in this family was to be the perpetual babysitter. So I made a decision. I had already requested time off work for what they assumed would be my babysitting duties. Instead of canceling it, I decided to use it for myself. I found this beautiful mountain cabin rental that a coworker had mentioned, secluded, peaceful, with hiking trails and a hot tub overlooking a valley. I booked it immediately, packed my bags, and left without telling anyone where I was going. The cabin was everything I needed, no cell service except for emergencies, no Wi-Fi, just pure solitude and the sound of nature. Of course, the morning of their cruise departure, my phone exploded with messages before I turned it off. Mom, we're leaving in an hour. When can we drop off the kids? Rachel, hey, we're heading to your place with the car seats. Be ready. Madison, are you ignoring us? This isn't funny. We have a schedule to keep. Mom again, honey, please answer your phone. Everyone's waiting. Then the messages got nastier. Rachel, I can't believe you're being so selfish. We're about to miss our flight. Madison, this is completely irresponsible. We trusted you. Mom, I raised you better than this. The best part? They had never actually confirmed with me that I would watch the kids. They just assumed I would do it because that's what I've always done. Now I'm sitting in this peaceful cabin, watching the sunset over the mountains, and for the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe. No demands, no expectations, no last-minute emergencies to handle. But I know this peace is temporary. My phone is still off, and I can only imagine the drama that's waiting for me when I turn it back on. Part of me feels guilty, not for the kids, because ultimately their care is their parents' responsibility, but for finally standing up for myself and disrupting the family dynamic. I keep thinking about what one commenter said on my last post: they're not angry because you said no, they're angry because they lost control over you. That really hit home. Am I wrong for finally putting myself first? Should I have at least told them I wouldn't be available? I know ghosting them wasn't the most mature response, but after years of being taken for granted, it felt like the only way to make them understand I'm serious. I'll be here at the cabin for the next week. After that, well, I guess I'll have to face whatever comes next. Thanks for letting me vent, Reddit. I'll update again once I'm back and deal with the fallout. Update 2. Hi Reddit, I needed some time to process everything that's happened since my last update. The situation has gotten worse, and I could really use some outside perspective. Remember that peaceful cabin I mentioned? Those 7 days were transformative. I spent mornings hiking through misty trails, afternoons reading books I'd been meaning to get to for years, and evenings soaking in the hot tub under the stars. For the first time in my adult life, I experienced what it felt like to not be at someone's beck and call. During my stay, I found myself reflecting on my relationship with my family. Last December, I had to postpone a major certification exam that would have advanced my career because Rachel needed help moving houses. She had claimed no one else could help her that weekend. The month before that, I spent my entire Christmas bonus on gifts for all the kids while my siblings got me simple gift cards, claiming they were too busy to shop properly. Earlier last year, I missed my best friend's bachelorette party because Madison insisted she had absolutely no one else to watch the twins. It was always the same pattern: their needs first, mine last. But the real drama started when I returned home. Remember how I turned off my phone? Well, I had 47 missed calls, over 100 text messages, and dozens of voicemails waiting for me. The contents ranged from guilt-tripping to outright threats. My cousin Madison's message took the cake: "Do you realize we could have called the police for child abandonment? You were supposed to be responsible for them." I couldn't believe what I was reading. How can you abandon children you never agreed to watch? I called her back immediately, wanting to address this absurd threat. "You can't be serious," I said when she picked up. "You can't report someone for not taking on a responsibility they never accepted." Her response was chilling: "We had to cancel our entire trip because of you. Do you know how much money we lost? The kids were supposed to be with you." Supposed to be according to whom? I countered. No one ever asked me. You all just decided for me. She went on about family obligations and how I'd let everyone down. Then she dropped another bomb. I've already talked to my friend who's a lawyer. What you did could be considered negligent. That's when I lost it. Your lawyer friend should tell you that you need someone's actual agreement before claiming they abandoned a responsibility. By the way, my apartment isn't even childproofed, and I have no official authorization to make medical decisions for your kids. Did you think about that? She hung up on me. Then came the barrage of messages from Rachel. Apparently, she had to leave her kids with a neighbor and could only enjoy half the cruise because she was so stressed. You've completely ruined Aunt Jean's retirement celebration, she wrote. Everyone's trip was affected because you decided to be selfish. The timing of this all hit particularly hard because just last month, when I needed someone to drive me home from a minor medical procedure, none of my family members were available. Rachel had a hair appointment she couldn't miss, and Madison was busy with her usual routine. I ended up having to pay for a ride service. My mom's approach was more subtle but equally manipulative. She called me at work, probably thinking I couldn't avoid her there. Your sister had to cut her trip short, she began, her voice dripping with disappointment. Madison lost thousands on non-refundable bookings. Is this really the person you want to be? I took a deep breath before responding. Mom, is this really about who I want to be, or about who you all want me to be? What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm tired of being treated like the family's free babysitting service. I have my own life, my own career, my own plans. But none of you even consider that. We're family, she insisted. Families help each other. Help is something freely given, Mom. What you're talking about is obligation. And by the way, when was the last time anyone in this family helped me with anything? The silence that followed was telling. But here's where it gets really interesting. My sister decided to take this public. She's been posting vague aggressive statuses on Facebook about toxic family members and people who don't understand family values. Our extended family members are commenting with things like blood is thicker than water, and some people forget where they came from. The irony? These are the same people who excluded me from the family cruise in the first place. My cousin even had the audacity to send me an itemized list of all the expenses they lost because of my selfish behavior: cruise tickets, flight changes, extra childcare costs. She's demanding I reimburse them because apparently, their poor planning is now my financial responsibility. I showed these messages to a friend who's actually a lawyer, not just a friend who knows a lawyer, and she laughed out loud. They can't make you pay for plans you never agreed to, she said. That's not how any of this works. The whole situation has made me realize something important. This isn't just about a cruise or babysitting. It's about years of taking advantage of my goodwill, of treating my time and energy as a resource they're entitled to. Every time I've tried to make plans for myself, there's always been some family emergency that required my attention. When I wanted to take a photography class last spring, I ended up spending those evenings watching the kids because Rachel had joined a book club. When I planned a weekend trip with friends this summer, I had to cancel because Madison needed help with the twins while her husband was away on business. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process all this. She pointed out that my family's reaction, the threats, the public shaming, the demands for money, are all signs of people losing control over someone they're used to manipulating. The only bright spot in all this has been Aunt Jean. She called me yesterday, and her words brought me to tears. I had no idea they excluded you like this. If I'd known, I would have put a stop to it immediately. This isn't what family is supposed to be. But even her support can't erase the hurt of realizing how my family really sees me. I'm not their sister or daughter or cousin, I'm their backup plan, their safety net, their free childcare service. I know I need to set firm boundaries going forward, but I'm struggling with what those should look like. Part of me wants to cut contact completely, at least for a while. Another part feels guilty even considering that. What do you think, Reddit? How do you establish boundaries with family members who don't even understand the concept of boundaries? Have any of you gone through something similar? Update 3, hey, Reddit, this will be my final update on the situation. After everything that happened with the cruise and the subsequent fallout, I've made some difficult but necessary decisions about my future relationship with my family. The past few weeks have been transformative. My work life has completely changed. Now that I'm not constantly on call for family emergencies, I've taken on leadership of a major project. My boss actually pulled me aside last week and said, "It's like you're a different person. Your focus and energy have improved dramatically." I didn't realize how much my family obligations were holding me back professionally until they were gone. Last night, I finally had the conversation I'd been dreading. I called my mom. I knew she'd be the hardest to confront because, despite everything, I do still love her. But love isn't enough to justify the way they've treated me. When she answered, her voice was immediately hopeful. "Honey, I'm so glad you called. Let's put all this behind us, okay? I don't want to fight anymore." "This isn't a fight, Mom," I said, keeping my voice steady. "This is me telling you that I need space. A lot of it." "What does that mean?" The hope in her voice turned to concern. "It means I can't keep doing this. I love you, but I can't be part of a family that doesn't respect me. Every time I try to stand up for myself, I'm met with guilt-tripping, accusations, and manipulation." She started crying, which would have broken me a few weeks ago. "So what, you're just going to walk away? From me? From your sister? From everyone? If that's what it takes to protect my peace, yes." The conversation spiraled from there. She tried every tactic in her arsenal: guilt about the kids, they ask about their aunt every day, financial manipulation, remember who helped with your first apartment deposit, and even bringing up Dad's health. This stress isn't good for his heart. What hurt the most was when she brought up my childhood. "I sacrificed everything for you," she said. "I put my career on hold to raise you." The irony of her using her own choices to guilt me about my choices wasn't lost on me. But for the first time, I stood firm. I explained that I would still send birthday cards to the kids, but I needed complete distance from the adults in the family for the foreseeable future. "How long is it foreseeable future?" she demanded. "As long as it takes for me to heal and for all of you to understand that I'm not just the family babysitter." She hung up on me. I expected to feel devastated, but instead, I felt lighter. For my sister and cousin, I took a simpler approach. I blocked their numbers and social media accounts. I went through my phone and removed myself from all the family group chats. I unfollowed their social media accounts and even changed my email filters to send their messages to a separate folder I can check when I'm ready. The change in my daily life has been remarkable. I used to check my phone constantly, anxious about missing an emergency call from my sister or cousin. Now, my phone is just a phone again, not a tether to endless family demands. I've started reclaiming my weekends. Last Saturday, I joined a local hiking group for a challenging trail I've always wanted to try. Instead of watching my nieces and nephews, I spent 6 hours climbing to a beautiful summit with people who share my interests. We're planning another hike next weekend. The photography class I mentioned? It's going amazingly well. My instructor says I have a natural eye for composition, and I'm already planning a photo exhibition with some classmates for next spring. These are the kinds of opportunities one never could have pursued when I was at everyone's beck and call. I've also started dating again, something that was practically impossible before. It's amazing how much more attractive you appear to potential partners when you're not constantly canceling plans to handle family emergencies. The only person I'm staying in touch with is Aunt Jean. She called me this morning and said something that validated everything I've been feeling. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you, even if they're family. She also shared that she had gone through something similar with her own sister years ago, which made me feel less alone in this decision. My therapist helped me see that this isn't just about setting boundaries, it's about reclaiming my identity. For so long, I was the reliable one, the responsible one, the family helper. Now I get to figure out who I am without those labels. Yes, there are moments when I miss them. When I see something that would make my nieces laugh, or when I pass by their favorite park. But then I remember the cruise incident, and how they were willing to exclude me from a family celebration while still expecting me to sacrifice my time for their convenience. I've started a 5-year plan for myself, something I never felt free to do before. I'm looking into getting my master's degree part-time while working. My company has a tuition reimbursement program, and my boss is incredibly supportive. I'm also saving for that solo trip to Europe next spring, something that would have been impossible when I was constantly spending my money and time on family obligations. The most surprising change has been in my mental health. The constant anxiety I used to feel has diminished significantly. I sleep better, I eat better, and I've even started a regular exercise routine. It's amazing how much energy you have when you're not constantly managing other people's lives. To those who asked in my last post, yes, I'm still at my job, and I've actually taken on a team lead role for a new project. My coworkers have noticed the change in me. One of them said, "You smile more now." I hadn't realized how visible my stress had been to others. Some of you might think I'm being harsh, cutting off my family like this. Maybe I am. But after years of being taken for granted, of having my own needs and desires ignored, of being treated like a service rather than a person, this feels like the only way forward. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe someday they'll understand why I had to do this. Maybe they won't. But for the first time in my adult life, I'm putting myself first, and it feels right. Thank you, Reddit, for all your support through this journey. Your comments and shared experiences helped me find the strength to make this decision. This will be my last update, as I'm ready to close this chapter and focus on writing my own story.